Good, how are you?
Good.
Yeah.
It's holding my size. Oh, okay, yeah, well, those are good signs for me. They can be very important.
During the COVID, but I think 36 is applications for a full. And we did some work on a couple projects. That has been really
Yeah, yeah.
We can start.
About a minute.
Yeah, get a few more chairs filled up or whatever.
There's open chairs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that generation is never been
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Good, Mark.
Yeah.
Spinnaker, I've heard the name, but
Yeah, well, it's one of those conversations, mostly because it's the sale on the front of your boat. You go back.
okay.
That's how it got there.
Okay. What do you do?
We do this.
Okay.
Myself, I'm actually the executive in residence relative to smart manufacturing. And otherwise, our firm does a combination of advisory work to help small businesses sort of build revenue growth strategies, and the other side is we originate the business.
Okay, we'll get started.
Incubator, okay.
We'll get started. Just on behalf of,
We're in thin film coating.
I'm gonna get started here, marketing. So, on behalf of our sponsor, Carnegie Dollar and McGee, I want to welcome you to the breakout session that we have for manufacturers and AI. We're gonna get into that, and Mark's got an excellent presentation and some demos that we've put together to get in those details of that. But just as an introduction, my name's Mike Green. I'm a project manager for Mass MEP. My role is to get out into manufacturers into the fields and implement any kinds of improvements that we can to help manufacturers grow. Because that's the motivation behind Mass MEP, is to whatever we can do to help grow manufacturers, to help get you guys successful so that we can make manufacturing in Massachusetts as good as it can be. In order to do that, we're funded through NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and in order to maintain that funding, we have to essentially make sure that we're driving results, right? So some of the things that we'll ask from you guys today as part of this session is to fill out that survey on the QR code here at some point during the day to give us feedback on this session, on this event, so that we can make sure that we're continually improving to provide value for you guys. And in about 6 to 12 months from now, you guys will get a survey through an email through a third-party firm will talk essentially about what did you take out of here, what were you able to learn, were you able to implement anything, and did that create value? Because ultimately we want to make sure that that's what we're doing for you guys. So that's the housekeeping and the admin part of this. And to get into the content, I'll hand it over to Mark from Spinnaker, and he'll take you through the rest of this, and we'll get into some AI and see how that works for us.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Well, everybody, welcome. Glad you could all make it here. That's great. Sometimes what might be an interest, just to get to know each other just a little bit, what we're doing. I think Mike and I were just talking, and you say you're in thin films.
Yes.
Yeah. Are you a producer or service provider of that?
We do services, but we also manufacture equipment and offer that to
okay.
mostly research and development, government labs, some commercial around the world.
Cool. Good.
Yeah, so at Fusion Optics, so we kind of got started with optical components for LED lighting, and then it's kind of evolved the scope where we're making our own light fixtures now, and then all the sensors and controls that go with that as well.
Okay. Okay. So using a lot of digital technology.
Well, that part of it is sort of new and expanding. So
Okay, that's good. How about yourself?
I'm Mike. I'm Bob. I'm from TriCab. We're a wire and cable manufacturer here in Worcester.
Oh, cool. Raquel?
I'm from Gin Precision Molding. We use thermoplastics and silicone injection molding.
Injection molders. Okay.
Okay, it's the two of you.
Yes.
Okay, what brought you into this session?
Just seeing what AI has to offer. We have some AI already.
Okay,
Beyond primarily vision systems.
okay, so you're using for vision and things like that?
Yep.
Okay.
For inland inspection primarily.
Great, great.
Hi, I'm Julie Clement. I'm from Phillips Enterprises in Northampton, Mass. And we are a manufacturer of storage fixtures.
Storage, okay.
Storage fixtures.
Scott, we met before, but
Scott Iders, I'm from Mac. We make all kinds of things, industrial, commercial, robotics, medical products, prototyping, PCB boards.
great.
So Mike Burley from Gemline, we manufacture promotional products.
Yeah.
And the swag that you've probably gotten over the years, maybe
Okay.
from us.
All the swag stuff. Do you also maybe do display stuff like people who are doing?
Yeah, we don't.
Okay, so you're into the stuff versus the presentation of the stuff.
Flocking, spectral coating, we did fabric flocking.
Flocking, and what company is that?
Spectrum.
Spectrum.
Eric Duty, a consultant at a quality support group, primarily do ISO 9001, AS9100, 1345 implementations. I'm also doing technical training for quality inspectors as well, so.
Okay, great. Probably supposed to do this in the meantime, I suppose. Well,
You should point the USB.
we have to point it at the USB. And, I'm sorry, so, yourself? Oh.
I'm Juan Hurtado. I'm from Argania. I came all the way from Panama. We're leveraging companies with business analytics with AI based on profitability. It's a different approach, very interesting.
So you're the AI guy?
AI guy, yeah.
Hardcore, okay. Yourself?
My name is Alex Correctus. I'm from Quality Component Innovations. We're a job shop in Seekonk, Massachusetts, and I'm a professor at the University of Connecticut. I teach design for manufacturing, and also I've been writing my ERP software and trying to implement AI into it with not too much success.
Okay.
I'm also working with Hexagon Technologies in their AI department for a software called Esprit.
Esprit, yeah. I don't know it. Sounds good.
I'll take it. Mike
Okay.
Ferrara from Bacon Joy Foods. Work together there in the technology team, and we manufacture fresh baked products for the bakery industry.
That's great.
Ed Marsh, I'm a consultant. I work with industrial manufacturers to help them bring the same rigor and mindset that makes them so successful in operations and manufacturing and apply that to their marketing and sales, where often there's a very strong dissonance between the maturity with which they run their operation and the way in which they market and sell themselves.
And yourself, Beth?
Hi, I'm Ellen Piccioli from WPI, Director of Manufacturing Innovation, and so I'm here to learn more about AI, and obviously WPI does a lot with AI, both in the curriculum and our research, and it's good for us to understand better what our, sort of the customers need and what's the latest and greatest.
Okay, well, thanks. Did I miss anybody? You're the staff, so we're all together. Okay, well, this is great. It's really interesting, and I'm glad you're all here, and it's good, I think, sometimes to know who's all come together. I think we have folks like yourself doing some high-tech coding type technologies, and some folks just baking food, which is really important as well. And so sometimes I like to say to folks that sometimes, I've been doing these innovation-related things for a long time. And so when you think about that, over the years, it's been doing everything from silicon chips to potato chips. And when you're working in all these different fields, sometimes you start to discover that nothing really is trivial. And there's deep science and engineering and knowledge really deeply in everything from baking bread, right, to making chips and coatings. And so I started really in the silicons part of the world where everything was very high tech and all that kind of cool stuff. But it wasn't long after that I started working in these other areas and working with the engineers and scientists and really how deep that is. So if you think about that, the depth of knowledge that, I guess I'm gonna mention it. No, Carl, I'll have you. Yeah, I think this just
Old school.
Yeah.
We do have a barcode, but I think since you have the things on, I'll let you just use the things that are, we put out here, because we wanted to collect a little bit of market research and on sort of what's really going on in your world, where you are with respect to the, you know, the whole life cycle of going digital, using digital for information and analytics and things like that. So anyway, so as we think about that, the amount of knowledge that has been accumulated in the world, right, whether it's structured or unstructured, is really quite extraordinary, but also not very useful, right? Up until now, we've been in a position where in order to really use that knowledge, we worry about the guy who's, you know, he's got 20 years, 30 years in the shop, and God help us if he leaves, right? Because all the art is in those folks who understand how things are going on. And in the meantime, we have all these piles of data that have been accumulating. They're sitting in all sorts of unsuspecting places around your operations, probably. Just latent and probably underutilized, but they may contain a lot of knowledge about what goes on in your business. Not to mention what goes on between your business and everybody else who's doing different related things. Not people who are necessarily just your competitors, but people who are within your supply chain, the technologies and discoveries and the kind of things that happen there. So we're in an interesting time now because the access to data and the ability to find all this information is really great, but really the tools by which to go get it are really cumbersome. It's still a really big project to go find something out. So I want to talk today, what we want to talk today is really about the transition to smart manufacturing, what that really means, what the transition, what the roadmap or the journey might be to start on a digital transformation, a digital journey for the business, and what is really the role of artificial intelligence there, okay? So I think one or two of you said you were already using some AI, right? You were talking about that, right? And I think in that context, this will be very interesting because probably whatever you had to do to be able to use it with your vision systems you guys with the vision systems, would be very different than I think what we can enable ourselves to do today, given what tools we have and the investments that other people have made for us. So that's what we're going to talk about. And so what do we think smart manufacturing is? Well, it's a transformation of what we used to call Industry 4.0. And as we all know, that was all about how are we going to use technology and how are we going to use technology to have really globally competitive manufacturing operations, where geography and workforce costs were not going to drive our decision making and where our supply chain lies and what we do. So as a result, it's really real-time intelligence of digital networking, and I really want to stress this, of people and processes and equipment. Not just equipment, but it's really about people. And probably the most important thing that happens in every day, in every operation, is how people interact with the work that they're going to do, or the tools that they're going to use to work on that. And if you think about what's happening, most of the best advances right now in the kind of tools we might try to use to be able to do this, to automate, to provide and capture the digital data, make ourselves more digital, most importantly lie between understanding how people in your operation interact with the work they do. Now in the past, I used to be the chief technology guy for Rockwell Automation, okay? So, you know, we wanted to sell a lot of hardware and, you know, it's billions and billions of dollars of I/O points and sensors and actuators and PLCs. It's an expensive and hard way to get there. You can't do it without a systems integrator. Okay, that's more money. And on this goes, and then you gotta upgrade it and revise the software and change it when you're processed. Okay, because we were really worried about the machine. We were stuck in our context that it was all about getting all the sensor information. Is it on or is it off? Is it going, is it stopped? You know, what's the overall equipment utilization of my equipment? Well, let's measure the equipment. Why don't we just worry about seeing what's going on between the people and the machine and the work? It's a lot easier to instrument. We are all tethered and connected, right? Everybody else in the world knows what we're doing all the time because they're just watching how we behave. and how we interact with data that has to do with something else. Okay, so this is important. So along the way at MIT in the Media Lab, a company got formed called Tulip. I don't know anybody heard of Tulip? Okay, it's an interesting thing to look at. They're turning the whole thing about manufacturing execution systems and ERP systems upside down. So they're saying really the metaphor doesn't have to be I have to connect my equipment. What I have to do is understand how people interact with the process. And from there I can build. And that's very easy to start. It's very easy to enter and very easy to begin it. So I encourage you to think about this kind of philosophical redirection. And that has a lot to do with how you're going to use AI, how we all can use AI and generative AI today to make a difference in our business. So when we talked about Industry 4.0 and smart manufacturing, there used to be a wheel like this that would have all these technologies, right? Cybersecurity would be up there, and 3D printing machines, and analytics, and networking, and all kinds of things. They were point solutions of technology. There is a lot of technology. There's robotics and 3D printing machines and all these things all the time. And there's a whole army of people who want to come knock on your door and sell you one. And they have a very good argument as to the return on investment if you buy my robot, or buy my 3D printer, or buy my software, or buy my system. But for what purpose? That's the question we want to ask you. For what purpose? What is it going to do for your business? Okay, fine, if it really does have an ROI that's positive, that's nice. But is it moving the needle on your ability to grow your revenue and become more profitable and become more sustainable and have more customers and have a stronger supply chain? Or is it just a nice technology that paid for itself? So we really think it's important to think about what's the business case, to build a roadmap and a strategy based on where you want to take your business and how to build a strategy as to how to get there. And those steps you need to take in the strategy, which are both understanding how you can operationally improve your business, but also how you grow it. Because as soon as you understand where the opportunity is for revenue growth, you're going to start to have a question of how do I fulfill. If you can figure out that you've been doing, 8%, 12% year-over-year growth, okay, that's nice. But what if you can figure out that with a few moves, you actually can take it to 3x? That's nice. How are you going to fulfill that with your resources? Right?
Good problem to have.
Huh?
Good problem to have.
Good problem to have, and we want to understand how to do it. But having an understanding that I can have that trajectory lets us plan backwards as to where are the investments in technology really required, and how is my supply chain really working, and how do I think about making and buying and collaborating within the ecosystem to be able to take advantage of that economic opportunity to have highly profitable growth. Because what you don't want to do is have all that growth and make less profit. It's possible. That would be great. So what we're trying to say here is if we think about top line growth in context of bottom line impact, operational improvement, and of course compliance, this gives us the opportunity to create business plans as to where we want to go. Knowing where we want to go tells us also where we want to use technology, where we want to worry about AI. Do we want AI to make us know about predictive maintenance on our machines? It can do that. I don't know. Or do we want us to help us understand how to optimize our supply chain? Or is it something that's going to help us create a better engagement and loyalty with our customers so they recurrently buy from us, and we hold them more captive to our business than our competitors? Those are 3 different use cases, right? And they're all really different. So we're going to talk about some AI technology, but in context, I urge you to think about these things in terms of people, and the people in your business, and the people that represent you, your holistic business, your value chain, from the customers who use your products to the suppliers that provide it to you, and what your strategic objective needs to be before you start jumping in and spending too much money or effort or resource on AI arbitrarily, because it's too broad. Once you do it, we've seen a lot of these pictures all the time, right? Okay, here's the person. Okay, we're on the iPad and we can see it, and it's virtual reality, right? Augmented reality is really hot. Let's do some augmented reality. Why? What would be maybe you think what would be a really good application, do you think, for augmented reality? Anybody?
Safety and training.
Safety and training is good. One of my favorite is really in being able to capture the generational knowledge of the people who've been in my business for a long time, so the people who are going to have to come to join my business that don't have 20 years experience can benefit from that as those guys, those people move on, right? So there's a really good reason to really try to get an iPad in your house and not worry about doing work instructions and things, but do it digitally, not on paper. Why? Because it engages, it's captive, and it's going to be able to capture a lot of knowledge. You know, and then the whole thing about remote asset management, right? We all love this one. Industrial IoT at its best. Let's run everything from our living room. It's a great idea. You know, any machine builders here in the room? I think a couple of you said you make equipment. Do you resell that equipment to people? Okay, well, it's a capital equipment purchase, or do you sell it as a service?
It's a capital equipment purchase.
So wouldn't it be nice if you can have an ongoing recurring revenue stream as a result?
We have that as well.
Good, because that's what you want to be able to think when we think about the business. What are the other sources of revenue that we can have by using digital technology to go forward? Go ahead, Chris. And, you know, we all know about lean, we all know about operational improvement, but once again, the whole message of digital, how many people are you feel that to the extent you do lean and you look at your factory floor operations, that they're completely digitized? Okay, that's no one. Somebody at MIT, a couple of these meetings ago, got up and spoke, and I was on the stage with him, and he said in his research, 9% of all the manufacturing operations in the United States, in North America, are digital, use digital technology on the floor. 14% in Europe, and 40+% in China. Okay. So people told us Chinese people have like a low labor cost, but they're also using a lot of technology. Anyway, we need to get on this curve, and I think all of us at Mass MEP are really dedicated to starting to take us all on this curve, to get us on our digital journey to move forward so that we can really appreciate all the efficiencies, the insights that data gives us, and use artificial intelligence. That's the data generation from manufacturing. Manufacturing leads most industries on data generation. This is in petabytes. That's a really big number. But look, government, communication and media, banking, retail, professional services, and healthcare. I think that's pretty amazing. But the data is probably sitting on the floor in your shop, it sounds like. So how we can get it working for us would be nice. Because on the same time, I found this post just a few days ago, right? This was on LinkedIn or something. 95% of manufacturers still use paper-based versus digital processes, while 27% use paper for over half of all activities. That's pretty amazing statement. Given that we all have one of these. Okay, let's keep moving on here. So, what we're really talking, we're talking about data and the power of data. We can't talk about artificial intelligence if we don't talk about data, or so they tell us, because we have to collect all that data. If we collect all that data, well, that's a chore in itself. How am I going to connect all my machines? Well, there's a whole nother discussion on that some other day. There's really cool ways to do it. But besides that, we want to take that data and we want to turn that data into information. Okay, that's easy, right? Now, why is that? Because, you know, stuff spews out a lot of data. You know, if you know the gate is closed, you don't have to know the gate is closed every 10 milliseconds. So it's okay to just measure it on change of state versus every 10 milliseconds. But you will be surprised how people, the most sophisticated companies in the world who use digital, hey, if I got it, I'm gonna take it, and I'm filling up the database with, you know, data that never changes. Okay, so we wanna take information, and that information for analytics, we've heard about Microsoft BI and Tableau and all these tools that make beautiful dashboards, is supposed to give us insight into what's going on. But what we wanna do is take that insight and turn that insight into value. And you're not gonna turn the insight into value if you don't have a real directed way to use that data. So again, this is all building. So if we want the AI, we need the data. If we don't have the data, we don't get the AI. But the AI is going to let us create value by helping us to gain insight from data. Okay? But I'm sure how many of you are sitting here saying, okay, this is great. So how many think it's just going to be like easy to go and start sucking all the data from your operations into some place to get it? Are you able to
So
do
we're
that?
collecting data, the problem is that there's so much, and so much of it is not good.
Yeah. Quality of data is trouble. Anybody else have some experience trying to pull data in?
Actually, a few years ago, we did just a demo to try and do this, and we recorded data for about 45 days, and we brought it to the operations executives, showed them everything, and they're like, this is awesome, turn it off. We have no idea what to do with any of this information.
Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they're like, just give us a little while and we'll figure it out, and we're headed back down that path now, but yeah, it was amazing that they saw it all and just still couldn't even know what the value would be.
Okay, that's a really interesting for the stakeholders. Don't too much information. I don't want to know what's going on. Anybody else? Okay. By the way, I need to know, what time is this supposed to end? On the clock.
Yeah, I think 11:55.
10:55. 10:55? Okay, thanks. Because I had a timer running in it.
Yeah,
Didn't
10:55.
work.
You got 20 minutes.
Okay, so let's continue on. So here we go. Now we have AI. What did these guys say? Oh, AI. It's the end of humanity as we know it. Is it? Or Time Magazine, same publisher, same cover, right? Oh, it's the future of mankind. Okay, is it a floor wax or is it a dessert topping? How many think it's the end of the world? Okay, it's not the end of the world.
Some days.
Some days, right? How many think it's going to be the future of our existence?
Some days.
I think it's going to be the thing that helps enhance what we do and helps us to do it better and helps us to do it more effectively. But I just thought it was really interesting to see that.
You know what I actually think, like, I think it doesn't matter what we think about it, it's here.
It's going to do it anyway.
For sure.
We might as well learn how to
So we might
play
as
with
well
it.
get in it, right?
Yeah.
And that's a really great point. I like that one the best because it is here, and let's talk about how we can just use it. Okay, so go ahead, Carlos. So in the past, we used to say, soon you had all the data, right? We could take that data and it can do analytics, and we can use AI to like describe processes. We can get insight. Okay, that was kind of cool. And if we got insight, we can take the data and run it through a machine learning model. That's a lot of work because you got to get a lot of data of what the system looks like and what the endpoint is, the inputs and the outputs, and wait a long time for it to digest that to create this nonlinear neural network machine learning model, right? That's a big project, but if you did that big project and you had all that time and money, it could be prescriptive, it could be predictive, and now we know it can be generative, okay? Oh, well, I've taken so much data in my factory, I've taken so much data in my market, in my operations, that I can create my own large language model that represents the business I'm in. Imagine the power if you had a digital twin of your entire business in the marketplace. That would be really cool. But everybody else would probably have one too. Okay, so it's a big thing. And what they tell us is that these are the 12 top use cases for AI in manufacturing as we know them today. And you're doing stuff with vision and maybe some others over here doing some optimization. But how many of you are using AI for any of these 12 things?
Who's they, by the way? You said they say this is the top 12.
Oh, this was from a reference. I'm sorry that we didn't put we should note the reference, but it was, we'll get that for you. It was some survey's assessment of what they thought was going on. Okay, so let's say nobody. But I think our position here is maybe very counter, right? That's okay because what I say is like, so what and who cares? And why do I say that? Because this is really hard to do. And I'm not going to be able to do this until we solve the problem of getting the data flowing at high quality enough, right, that it can do something. And then we got to convince people that it's worth it. Okay? So somehow we have to convert the data to enough insight that it creates value that say, oh yeah, we should do that. That's a tough. So So this is nice, and people have been doing this for a very long time. And literally at the beginning of the 2000s, when I was working at Rockwell, I had reporting to me an AI center in Stanford, in Palo Alto, California, with Stanford researchers, as well as the people I had in my own operation, and we were building neural networks and machine learning things. This is not new. But we have the power of the computation, we have the value of all the data that's accumulated, we have Amazon and Google and Microsoft collecting everything there is to collect. So finally, there's enablement both in the technology and the implementation. We have the data and the processing capability to make it economical. But again, who cares? I mean, in this room, does it really matter to us? Is it relevant? Does anybody have the resources in their business to put up a team to do data science? Does anybody have a data scientist in their operation?
Just me.
Okay, you are
I
one.
have a data scientist hat, but.
Okay, but, so I'm sort of purposely trying to take like this kind of position that says, I'm not so sure it really matters because I don't know we have the ability to benefit from it right now. But I think we can. Go ahead, Carlos. So really what's happened, we had the artificial intelligence concept, with algorithms to do things, and there was machine learning, which is really, cause effect, inputs, outputs, map them, especially for nonlinear systems where things like regression analysis and all this stuff didn't work, okay? Because the number of variables interacting with variables was beyond linear mathematics. So that's really where this came from, okay? And then we started thinking about deep learning. Okay, let's really learn a topic because we can get enough data on this topic to go deep. And lastly, though, most recently we've heard about generative AI. And generative AI is really interesting because it's really the natural evolution of people trying to work this problem for a really, really long time. Go ahead. And so as a result, this is the good news now, okay? Here's the really good news, because the point is there's really some great things we can do with AI right now, right in your shop, as soon as you go back today. And it's because other people, I like other people's money. I like to use other people's money for what I want to do. I was doing technology startups with venture capital when I was 27 here in Boston and Cambridge. 3 years later, I sold that to Honeywell. I said, that's a really cool way to make money. I'm an engineer. I can have crazy ideas. Other people will give you their money to try it. Some end up in boxes in your garage, okay? Some don't. Okay, so the world decided to spend probably closer to, I don't know, $10 billion, $50 billion. I don't know, does anybody have any idea what the full investment is in large language model development? We know it's way over $1 billion because OpenAI itself consumed $1 billion and is about to consume the second $1 billion. So people like Microsoft and OpenAI, thank God to Elon Musk, of course, he's like, he'll put the money in. Or IBM or Google or Amazon have built and spent a lot of money creating all these different large language models. So basically, there's those neural networks for all. It's as simplistic as it's just really gigantic neural networks that have been processing for a long time that are now made accessible to us, and it's made accessible to us. So you can explore all these things, as you know. This one will make artwork for you. Anthropic and ChatGPT, we can talk to it about things. So let's see what we can talk to it about today. Okay, so click that. So the question we want to ask is, what really is the journey here, and where do you start? And it used to be that it was a really hard problem. We'd have to start by collecting all that data that we're not collecting, getting computers and stuff to put it in a database, get it clean, build dashboards by buying Microsoft BI, Tableau, or God knows what else that we really can't use at the level we want to use. So now I need a data scientist or a data analyst. Okay, this is just too hard. But right now, what can happen is we can change the way this works, and we can start with quick wins. And I think you can do it for $20. And you can probably do it yourself. And so we've been doing a lot of experiments in this, and we think that what's happened is that the original process of trying to understand the business and understand your data, prepare your data, create models, go around this circle before you had something, a hard problem, has been collapsed enormously by the entrance of generative AI. Now we can go in and really use generative AI, now that it's come, which is cool, and put it in the very front of the process, instead of it being the thing we do after we collect the data, analyze, clean, store, and, you know, the data. We can go right to the other place. We can use it to initiate our journey. We can use it and the investments other people have made in it to help us start on this path right out of the gate, very inexpensively, and in ways that we think would be meaningful to everybody, to all you guys. We can do it ourselves and the people that work for us. And the people maybe that you also work for. Maybe help them too, right? Okay. So that's really our message. And the only way we can really tell you about this is to show it to you. Okay? Okay. So, Carlos, what we're gonna do, a molding machine first? Yep. Okay. So, what we have learned is really easy to do. What you're looking at here is GPT-4, okay? Now in GPT-4, nothing too fancy here, right? There's a mode you can go in if you're willing to pay $20 a month. Okay, so we paid. We actually paid $25 and we bought a team version so that we can all share it.
Big investments.
Okay, we were big spending that day, and so we did that. And so what we started to discover, there's a mode in there where you can start to pre-bias the thing. You can start to tell it, well, this is really my context. I'm this kind of person, or I do these kinds of things, and this is the kind of objective I have. And here are some other kinds of informations and data I have that I can feed you, and it holds that private, that relates to create context. And now that I created that, I can create what's called a custom chatbot that will then do whatever problem I want. Okay, so that's a capability. It's easy to use. Yes?
You just said it's private, but I thought there is a concern everything you put into a tool like that, isn't necessarily protected.
That's not really the case, it turns out. And probably because of all the conversations, OpenAI in particular has made a very, very strict firewall between the data we have to click a button. Now you can opt out, you can let them use all your stuff if you want, but it comes up opted out. So then everything you put in, so what you're really doing is playing the large language model up against your own data set for bias. Okay. So what we did here was a very different kind of thing. We didn't even bother to tell this thing anything. All we did is we got a CSV file that was a data dump from some runs off of an injection molding machine. Okay? And it was loaded up here, just drag and drop into this box, and then said, what is the data about, and create some statistical plots for all the variables. Okay, I think about 10 seconds later, the first thing it did, it says, oh, here's what it found in the data set. Okay, that's cool, that's not amazing. Go ahead, Carlos. And then it started to create what it thought were relevant histograms based on that data set. So the scaling is done, the presentation is done. Now it doesn't really know how to interpret these, but if we taught it more about what injection molding was about, maybe we just start to feed it things that we know about it or that we'd like to know about it in our own operation, it would start to be able to let us interact. And why is this important? This can be done out of the box. That's easy. And so what it can be doing first is let us do discovery. Discovery is the most important thing we can think about doing with the data you already have. Whether that data is in your QuickBooks, or that data is a CSV dump of a file from something, or it's sitting around in your inventory system, wherever this data is just laying around the shop, it actually can be brought to value by putting it into a system like this and querying it and seeing what it says. And then from this, we can hopefully see that from what it says, we can say, oh, some of these things are important, and they would be important enough because I know what this means in terms of financial output to me. Maybe now I want to invest a little money in doing something systematic around it. Okay?
Can I ask you a quick question? Can you get it to give you the data back in another sort of spreadsheet format? Like,
Oh, like just make a spreadsheet
yeah,
for us?
making a spreadsheet
Oh, sure.
summarizing this data.
Yeah, we probably should do, we'll do that experiment.
Okay.
That's a great idea, because, yeah, that, like, yeah, we probably skipped that because we're just like, yes.
Right.
Yeah, and we have seen that happen, where here's just a bunch of unstructured data, make me a chart. Make me a spreadsheet, specify what you want. What you can also do is create templates of ways in which you like to see things, and put them in that little box, and say, but make it like this. But this is just short-term stuff, but it's easy to do. So we're all of a sudden becoming prompt engineers, right? You've heard that word, prompt engineer? How do you really write a question to the stuff to get what you want out versus just garbage in is garbage out, right? It takes effort and smarts. But that's what the whole program around Mass MVP's AI introduction is about, is we can start together to figure out how can we create value out of data in your shop very, very quickly and very inexpensively. So then we have a vision as to how we want to use it to decide how our roadmap ought to be to invest in it instead of starting it. So you can see here, it's trying to do correlations, it's talking about feature stuff here. Go ahead, Carlos, do you want to say 3 seconds? So in this, I think we also asked it, so here's just another quick, we said, which are the most influential variables that really influence and predict quality in your shop? And it has rank ordered what it thinks was the most important thing, starting with the cycle time, plasticizing time, and the injection pressure of the push. Right? Okay, makes sense. Okay. Is there something else in here that you think we ought to show, Carl? So let's go to the next one. So that's just to give you a taste. So if we had ability, and most of the machines we have aren't probably connected and they're not going to a database, but I bet we can get a data dump on them. And if not, what you probably have is a lot of pieces of paper that people, travelers from the shop floor, that if you save all those travelers and we scan them in, we can read them and say, make me a spreadsheet about what's going on with last week. That would be cool. Yeah, call us up, we'll help you out. Okay.
You're saying just scan documents, like as PDFs?
Yeah, scan documents like PDFs. You know, if we turned on Google right now, it would transcribe every word we said in this room, and if it started to learn our voices, it would tell us who said so. We use this all the time when we make phone calls. And then we take that transcription and we actually run it through things like this, tools like this, so it creates entire summaries of the prioritization of that conversation of what people wanted to do. It's very powerful, right? But also you can do that with documents. Okay, so here we said, oh, let's take the sales data. So here is just a CSV file, right? So we're trying to make it easy, right? So can we just get a CSV file of our sales data from our QuickBooks or whatever? You know, what's the orders? And then it can see what's going on there. And it starts to show us what it's seeing relative to histograms of the frequency of data that is relative to different aspects. So, of different aspects of the data set itself, okay? So here's like your online order number, the year, the month, the quarter, you know. So the point is we can quickly visualize data without having to go buy Microsoft BI and learn how to use it and get a data scientist out. What we really want to do is put it in a form where people who really understand what the data should mean to us, which is you guys, right, can look at it and see it and then decide, oh, there's a direction I'd like to go with this, and have a conversation with the data to make it go in that direction. Maybe that leads you to the specification that says, you know, I'd really like to use these views to run my business. Okay, so then let's go get Microsoft BI, build a dashboard. The point is we can start here instead of all that upfront initiation. That's what we're trying to show you. What was the next one?
The next one should be supply chain.
Okay, so let's think about the supply chain. This is a really interesting experiment we did a couple weeks ago. Okay, so what you're really seeing is we're doing experiments, but we're very excited and very surprised by the output of our experiments. And in the output of our experiments, we said, wow, there's really value in this. We can have very low-hanging fruit to learn how to use this within the context of businesses with what you have just available right away. That's meaningful, that gets us going on where is the digital journey should start for my business, what data in my business is going to make the most importance to me first, so where should I invest in that first, right? How do I order that? So this we call Virtual Olivia, which is named after somebody who works in Mass MEP. And her job is, she will take a request from somebody in our community that says, oh, you know, Jesus, I'm really trying to find a supplier who's ISO certified and so on and so forth, and knows how to, like, you know, weld copper to aluminum. That's a project, right? Let's go on the web, let's get a directory, let's look at the database, let's call people up, let's find out if they're certified. A week later, you're still looking for a supplier. So we decided that maybe we could do that here. Do you want to talk about what you did?
Yeah, of course. So as you described, that was her whole role, looking and scraping the web. So I sat with her and, hey, let's thought this process and let's do it simpler for you. And then she has a thought process, so she goes in the web. If she doesn't find it in the web, she has a database of, I don't know, 7,300 manufacturing companies in the state. And then if she doesn't find there, she has another database. So it's a complete, really nonsense of looking everywhere. So basically, here you can just like input with what you are looking for. So this is just an example. So I'm looking for a robotics humanoid company in the state of Massachusetts. And she'll ask me some other questions if, I don't know, if I'm looking for ISO certified or other specific specs that you are looking for. And then she'll do those search.
All the work for you. Now you have a very quick output in kind of a spreadsheet form that says, here's the kinds of companies that were found, here's their websites. So that saved me a lot of time. At least I know the short list of where I want to go, where they're located, you know, and we could tell it to do more or get less or more stuff. But the point is, we just took the idea of doing a very important supply chain discovery process in here. That saves a lot of time and trouble too, right? But just to give you an idea, how long did it take to build that?
This? 5 minutes?
Took you more than 5 minutes to
Well,
build it.
15.
Well, let's just say it took a couple hours to program.
And then she said, yeah, like around 1 hour. I mean, really simple. And then for her, she's saving 8 hours of work.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the I think the last one is your.
So what took you an hour? I'm sorry.
The creating the scripts, creating the what they call prompts, describing the process you wanted to go through to the system. You made a custom chatbot, it's called. That chatbot was told, oh, you're going to be a supply chain manager, and this is the kind of information, and here's some data I like to use as a source. Here's where you find that data. And in this data, this is the kind of thing I want to do, and I'd like the output to look like this, thanks. And then we put it in a little button. And the little button is called Virtual Olivia. And if you click that button, it's going to say, oh, what are you looking for today? And then go through that.
Is this supposed to replace real Olivia, or is this
No,
just
this is really Olivia's co-pilot.
Yeah.
I believe this very, very strongly about the technology as an assist technology. It's not replacement technology, and I don't think it will be for as far as I can see into the future. But if you're a subject matter expert and you woke up that day and you didn't get to have 2 cups of coffee, you only had 1, and you walk in and you have to do the problem, you're going to do a great job. But 4 days later, you say, shit, I remember I did this project 2 years ago, and it was just about that, and that would have been a better answer, but it wasn't top of mind. So what if you had a co-pilot to help bring those things to top of mind?
Just 2 quick comments. Besides all this, you just made me think of things, the unintended
consequences.
So I think when we're looking at this, we need to think about what you just said. This is not about the fear about robotics. It's not going to replace everybody. It's
Right.
a complement and a help co-pilot. The other thing is the ethics part of this. Like, I feel like, you know, as an engineer, we go off, we do all this great stuff, and, you know, sometimes there's an ethical part of this where you're making decisions, and I think it has to be talked about and taught, and part of this whole.
I think that will be important. I think
I've seen interesting data that actually indicates that it's not the lower skilled worker who will be displaced, but rather it narrows the delta, and so the high skilled workers have much less of an advantage than they did in the past.
I don't know about that. That's something I really don't know about and haven't really thought about at all, quite frankly. Can we show you one more quick?
Yeah, we're out of time already.
Okay.
We should wrap it up, 'cause more people coming.
Okay, so I think you get the idea. So the other one is we put in some sales data, reading through this. And it went through and it started to plot the performance of this business from the P&Ls. So you could just feed it your QuickBooks and start to learn about where your business performs and doesn't perform, who your best customers are, what the environments are, and have it create a predictive thing on your, predict. So with that in mind, can you switch back to the presentation, just put the last slide up so you have it. There's 2 programs that exist from SMEP you should think about if you're interested. One is about generative AI. You heard about that from Ellen today. It's really where we can talk about how to really put this to work right away. And since it's within the context of the Mass MEP and workforce training, that could be good. And secondly, is really the whole idea of getting the data going, starting with the factory floor and the operational data and getting that moving in your business. I hope it was helpful.
So $20 tomorrow, you can do it all, right?
Yeah, $20 and
For 25.
Or 25.
25. It's worth buying the upgrade.
It's about people who quote the team.
Yeah.
25 gets me virtual immune.
No. Go for that. If you want that, give us.
You can talk to us.
Talk to them.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Now I know why real living gets back on
Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
I did notice the prompts were a bit more polite to Olivia than the example before.
Yeah, sometimes it depends on the mood I'm in, what kind of prompt
We're supposed to scan this here?
Yeah, here's one.
Thank you very much. That was great. I've been playing with it, with the text. So, and then
Thank you very much. Yeah,
I think we're going in about 5 shop.
Been here, done that.
So we'll go ahead.
So when you thank you. Thanks, Mike. So you just go to as you go, you take your side. So you want to have
It's like,
I meant not so much the program, but as you conceptualize it, you write them down in a document to make sure you're using it the right way and then enter it in, or you just enter it in?
yeah, I've been old enough. I've been, I like,
When I built mine, I just dumped stuff, but I don't think I'm getting this same narrow focus that you're doing.
yeah. And then it creates a little image.
And where do you draw the line between what you want built into the custom GPC versus what you want the user to be able to?
Give me some ideas.
We did.
It works in the past.
So that's how I that's my story. We connect.
Maybe. Pull it down a little more. It's getting really glazed.
And that's part of the they've also seen a file, but they probably are like, well, what's actually in that file? Okay, yeah, we have, nobody's there.
There's probably a problem.
I think it's the HDMI.
Yes. I'm good, how are you doing?
And then it'll actually.
Spend some time. Okay, see, I had this, I had that, well, I guess I thought I did, and then it beeped it, so then I lost it.
The next one runs to.
You ready?
The next one runs to 11:50.
Yeah, I don't know if it's better to use this or that. I'll try this. We're starting now though?
Yeah, I think, are we good?
Yes.
Yep, okay, yep. Okay, so welcome. On behalf of our breakout room sponsors, Kearney, Donovan, and McGee, welcome to the Manufacturers in AI breakout session. It'll be a fun discussion, I think. Last session went pretty well. So we'll look forward to getting into it. Just so as introductions, my name is Mike Green. I'm a project manager for Mass MEP. I mean, my role is to go out, work with manufacturers on site, implement some solutions, do some Kaizen events, really kind of get our hands dirty and go fix problems. Because all that we want to do with Mass MEP essentially is help you guys grow. So it's all about growing manufacturers in Massachusetts. And Mass MEP wants to be able to do everything we can to further that goal. The way that we do that is through funding from nonprofit, funding from both federal and state governments. And we get a lot of that from NIST, from the National Institute of Standards and Technology. In order to maintain that solution, in order to help to deliver value for you guys, we ask for a couple of things. We need to maintain our center in good standing status. So in order to do that, there's a couple of things that we want from you guys. One is at the end of at some point during the session or at the end of the day, scan this QR code that you've got on the back of your agenda cards. It's a survey, gives us feedback around how we can improve these events to again provide more value, to make sure that we're delivering on everything that we want to deliver to get towards that goal. The other thing that will happen is as a result of the event, in about 6 to 12 months, somewhere in that window, you'll get an email for a third-party survey, which is used to show what impacts are we driving in the state. So anything you learn from this event, either from this breakout session or anywhere within the event, if you're able to implement some stuff, create some value, make some improvements within your business, that survey will allow us to track how many different types of improvements are we hoping to create within the state. So that will be what we need to make sure that we maintain our NIST certification and funding, and continue to do what we want to do to help you guys grow. So that's the admin part of it. That's some of the stuff that we ask from you guys in order to help us out. And now I'll kind of hand it over to get into some of the AI stuff with Mark. You know, Mark's been working with Mass MVP for quite a while.
I guess 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, as our resident kind of smart manufacturing expert. So he'll be able to really kind of paint a picture of manufacturers and AI and what kinds of opportunities exist in that area. So.
Okay, thanks. Well, thank you all for coming in and your interest in what can be done. And hopefully this will be an interesting conversation. But I think before we start, it'd be interesting just to know, you know, who all you are and where you come from. So,
So, Jane Arnold.
I think we met you.
Yes, y'all have heard enough about me, so go ahead.
Okay.
Sean Parnell, plant manager from Dexter Russell.
And what do you guys do?
We manufacture knives.
Knives?
Yeah, well, a lot of stuff, culinary stuff.
Culinary things, yeah.
Patty Mullins also from Dexter Russell. Sean runs the North Plant and I run the South Plant.
Okay, so you guys are operating people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anna Lambert from TechEdge, I'm Director of Research and Development. We manufacture metal parts, metal types of materials and flexible circuits and shielding for electronics.
Electronic
Yeah, it's a
stuff.
little bit.
And how large is your R&D department?
It's me.
Okay.
It's a new department.
I thought you would tell me that, so I had to ask because that's not unusual.
My name's Matt Boucher. My wife and I own a machine shop called Machinosaurus Manufacturing Company.
Cool.
I'm Kugan, Anand Kugan, and I'm a consultant. I've been in manufacturing for 3 decades and scale up startups and or industrialization manufacturing.
Cool. So?
Tom Nasty with Aircuity. I lead our operations. We are a manufacturer out of Norwood, responsible for indoor air quality management solutions, which has software and hardware components.
Indoor air quality. Colin?
Colin Derby, Mac Molding Company, manufacturing engineer. We do injection molding, sheet metal, complex electromechanical assembly.
Okay.
Alistair Adams, also Mac Molding.
And you too, I guess. I can see it right over there. Yeah, and I think two of your colleagues were here in the last session, actually.
Yep.
Okay, I see you back here. Yes.
Oh, Mark Smith.
Nancy, yeah.
Work at Curtis Tractor Cab in West Boylston. We make enclosures for vehicles and those. I'm a manufacturing process specialist.
Okay, Nancy.
I'm Nancy Monroe. I'm with Bank of America. I'm the credit officer for the regional mass team, supporting clients that do 5 to 75 million in sales.
Okay, great.
Amanda Florence, AccuRounds.
AccuRounds.
Bob Yard, President of Mercury Wire Products. We manufacture specialty wire and cable primarily for OEMs.
That's great. An AI-powered CRM. Okay, good.
Austin Moss, also a Spiro.
Okay.
Maria Davidson, also the Spirit.
So the Spiro people. Okay, good.
Tom Hamel with Dalton Electric Heating. We manufacture cartridge heaters for process heat manufacturing applications in Ipswich, Massachusetts.
Cool.
Devin Brown, I'm the owner of J&J Machine Shop in Marlborough, Massachusetts.
Okay, what kind of work do you specialize in? Anything in particular?
Medical and aerospace.
Medical and aerospace?
Heather Moyer, Boston Engineering. We provide engineering services supporting product design and development, smart operations.
Okay, thanks. So that's great. I think it's sometimes good to have an idea of who we all are as we have a conversation, right? And you know, it's really interesting to me because in general, we're all in different kinds of product from machine shop, you know, to actually AI technology to help us run our business, right? And as I've been involved in doing technology and innovation management work over my life, for a while I was the head of technology for Rockwell Automation, so understand this space, but much more broadly, ended up, we would sometimes say, working on everything from silicon chips to potato chips. And you know, when you think about that, and a lot of people, you know, you get into it and some people say, oh wow, that was really cool. In my early career, I'm an engineer. It was really exciting to be working on semiconductors and things like that, right? A lot of technology. But then later on, I was working with one of the largest companies in the world as a client, it was Rich Products in Buffalo, New York, and they made bread. In fact, they made most of the bread that we think is fresh baked off at the supermarket. It really came from Buffalo. And what became very fascinating to me, and I'm trained as a chemical engineer, is I really was excited to learn that you could really go so deep into so much dimensionality, the technology and the science and the art of how things are done, whether you wanted to make a microprocessor or you wanted to make a loaf of bread. And the depth of commitment and the amount of science and engineering and technology and knowledge that is in all of these different fields of work was really very interesting. And as a result, no matter what you worked on, I found it was really interesting. It could really be consuming to learn about all these different places and things in the supply chain and the technologies that were used in the enabling materials or the enabling services that made things work. So suffice it to say, it's really important. Sometimes I say to people, people don't always understand where all the value is in our world, in our infrastructure. And, investment bankers make a lot of money, right? And musicians get very famous. But the fact is, everybody wants the water to really come out of the tap when you turn the tap. There's a lot of engineers and a lot of technology that make that happen, right? And not everybody always appreciates that. But as a result of all this happening, the other point of this is that there's a lot of data, there's a lot of knowledge and information and data that's been accumulated over all these years and all this time. And as we go forward, we're generating more and more of this data. So this gigantic body of data and gigantic knowledge base is really powerful, and it enables us to do new things all the time. But we have a really big problem. The problem is being able to actually access it in a way to get what we need and the right stuff we need in the right place at the right time so that's sufficient. So it's really inefficient. And probably most of the people in this room, if you don't work for a really, really big company, don't have the resources to have the time to do that in the first place. So it's an interesting problem. Are we getting to a place where something like hear about this artificial intelligence generative stuff is going to make a difference there? Maybe. Should we find a way to have it make a difference for us? That's what this is about today, is to try to put it in context of the small business and how that technology can be used to really enable our businesses. So that's me. That was my partner who wasn't able to make it today. It's Andrea Reedy. He works with us as well. And he's a physicist and an AI specialist. So I'm stepping into his half of what's going on today. We gave you some cards. If you find these cards and don't have one, grab one. We're just trying to collect a little bit of actually market research information so that in part the Mass MEP understands some of the dimensions of what's going on in the business. So we have this big, large world of knowledge, and you people represent a lot of it, right? Because you're doing all kinds of different things, from making devices for aerospace or medical businesses, right, to making food, to helping people make anything. You guys are pretty broad, right? And we want to find out how to use that. So let's put this in context of this thing. We used to talk about Industry 4.0, right? And the whole point about Industry 4.0, when it really came on the scene, was an attempt to understand how can we actually employ and use technology, digital technology in particular, but technology, in order to create a world-class manufacturing operation. Something that would match on a global world-class basis the cost of making our goods and our services. So that was the attempt. But how many people in this room in your operations have digitized, have digital operations, are collecting data, putting it into computers, having it flow into data analytics and other kinds of digital tools in your business? You guys. Okay, you're the map guys. How big is your company in revenue, would you say?
40 million a year last year, I think.
Okay. Anybody else? John Digital here? Okay. How many of you use QuickBooks to run the front office of your business? Okay, how about other? Anybody else have accounting systems and, yeah? Okay, we probably don't run the money without the technology, right? The money's all in the technology, the data's all, but that's good. That can be very powerful. Okay, but that's really interesting. So if we think about this transition, so what is smart manufacturing? So first of all, smart manufacturing in our view is, which is takeoff of good old Industry 4.0, is the real-time intelligent networking, and I want to stress this, people and processes and equipment, okay? It's not the real-time intelligent digital networking of equipment. If that's all you do, you're not gonna get anywhere. It's about people. And you actually heard that today from what was spoken about. So the whole point here is that what we really want to understand is what and how are people interacting with the materials and the flow of goods and the machines and the operations how do they interact? What's happening between them and the machines? If we understand the behavior and the relationship between what people are doing and what they're working on, we actually will know everything there is to know about the business that we really need to know. We don't need to go and spend all that money and all that headache, which probably, obviously, most of you don't really want to spend all that money, and get yourself an IT department and a data scientist and a controls engineer who just does all your industrial IoT connections to get that data for you. We don't really have to do that. It's very expensive, but that's what we thought we had to do for a long time. And as I can tell you, as somebody who was at the top of Rockwell Automation, right, that's their business. They make, I don't know, last I checked, somewhere around $15 or $17 billion a year selling people sensors and actuators put into PLCs and take all that data. And you know, even if those PLCs are in the machines in your operations, you're still not taking the data that's in those machines to do anything with for yourself right now anyway, are you? Why? Cost too much money? Doesn't matter? Anybody have a?
Because we don't know.
Because you just don't know. Okay, that's good too. So, okay, so what we're really trying to say here is that it's really about people and how people interact with the process and business that really makes a difference. And that's been a real transformational way of thinking, I think, in terms of supervisory control, manufacturing execution systems, ERP, the whole notion of the ABCs of, you know, CRM, MES, you know, ERP, you name it. So out of the MIT, just a few years ago, out of the MIT Media Lab came a company was formed called Tulip. Who has heard of Tulip? Oh, good, that's a lot of folks. Last time no one heard of Tulip. So if Tulip's an interesting new player on the scene because they're trying to enter with a different philosophy, and it's this kind of philosophy. They're more interested in how their technology is based on being more interested in how do people interact with their work than instrumenting the actual work itself or the machines. And that's very powerful because it lets you get started and it lets that technology be brought to bear in a business very quickly at a very, very low threshold of time and investment if it's done right. You know? Has anybody had experience using it in your shop? Anybody use Tulip? What do you think about it? You don't have to like it.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Definitely comes with its challenges. So we use it across our shop floor. Pretty much every operator has a screen in front of them telling them what it is they're building, what it is they're doing. We track material through it. Now we're trying to branch out into other aspects, you know, again, material movement across the floor.
Okay.
You know, checklists, things like that. Again, just anything we can use to digitize our shop floor.
Okay, so you found a way to start your journey into the digital world
We're
yourself.
getting our foot in the door, yeah.
Good.
I enjoy it. We use it on the shop floor for audits. So we do a lot of safety audits, all our quality checks were done through that. And we had kiosks that you could actually log into and have the iPads come out with the app on it. So it was good with mobile, which is nice.
Okay. Well, I think this is good because that's what I'm saying. I think there's this movement to really focus more on how data flows and how people interact with data is an equivalent to how people interact with their work. And in that interface, really, it tells us a great deal about what's going on. So it creates a whole new kind of a metaphor for how we can deploy technology. And this is really powerful because it lets us start to accumulate data that's useful in the business. Go ahead, Carlos. And in the past, we've all talked about Industry 4.0. We heard about it. This is our version of what that would be. Now you can call it smart manufacturing. But this used to look like it had 3D printing, and we had analytics, and we had cybersecurity, and robots. We had all these technology point solutions around the wheel. And people said, oh, we want you to use these so you can be Industry 4.0. You can have a smart manufacturing facility. Well, we say no, that's not the right way to do it. They are simply point solutions. Technology point solutions to solve a problem. The question is, what problem are you trying to solve? There's a lot of people in the market who are going to come to you and they're going to say, oh, buy my robot. And here's a great, here's the ROI, here's the return on that investment. It's positive, it looks good, but get a 3D printer. Here's my 3D printer. It's going to save you some money. So if we look at them as point solutions and point investments, okay, we might do that, but it's not going to help move the needle on our business. Unless we really have a strategy for our business on what really is going to move the needle to create return on investment on the overall business, we're not going to be able to make the right moves, and we won't be making investments that are causing our business to become higher profitability, to grow margin, and to improve its overall value of the enterprise itself. So what we first and foremost encourage everybody to do is first think about what is the strategy for your business. What are you aspiring to get to? What is the roadmap for growth for your business? Because if you understand what the roadmap is for growth for your business, it's going to then tell us how to decompose that into where we have to act, where we have to invest, and what resources are necessary to meet that growth. So if you have a business and it's growing by 8% year over year or 12% year over year, that's nice. You're probably pretty happy with that. What if you came in and you discovered making a few moves in the marketplace would allow you to take that up to 3x in 3 years? That's great. Okay, that sounds like a lot of fun, right? We can go, how are you going to ever perform on that? If people start ordering that stuff, do you have the capacity to fill it? How are you going to activate the capacity in your business to do that? So once we see that, we then can start to build the roadmap of where we have to use technology, where to invest, and how to behave within the ecosystem of our market for making things ourselves, collaborating with others, or buying things through the supply chain to be able to grow the business to that kind of a profitable growth. So first and foremost, we want to always say, before you do anything, whether it's going to be to invest in AI or data or hardware, have a plan that's driven by a business plan, a business case that gives you a reason to make those investments. Because the same investment, although they all had a positive ROI, some of them may really amp up your business ability to grow, or create it to be a much higher value, attractive target if what your real aspiration is to sell it. Or maybe you want to put yourself in a position to gain the investment money to grow it, to amplify it, to do acquisitions. Whatever your goal may be, understand clearly what your goal is and back it up with your business strategy. So to that extent, we really want to think about what's our top line growth and the impact on bottom line, and of course compliance, and understanding that in context will tell us what do we really want to do. Do we need to do predictive maintenance on things? Do we need remote maintenance? Do we need to understand our process automation or warehousing? Where do we want to make those investments? So that's my pitch for just having a strategy before you do anything is really important. And because if you think about the technology, we all see these things, the person with the augmented reality iPad, that's really cool, okay? But I think that's really important to what maybe we're trying to do with Tulip a little bit too, because the more we can use technology right now to understand the way people interact with their work, we may have an opportunity to use this technology to capture the knowledge for generational purposes, for passing down knowledge from one generation to the other generation in our operation. So that as people who have 10 and 20 and 30-year knowledge about how to really make our things, our processes work, and our businesses run, are starting to move on, we have some mechanism by which to capture their knowledge and move that knowledge down generationally, and also a technology that is engaging enough and efficient enough to employ them, to get them engaged in that kind of process. So we can grow and move. So that would be an interesting thing. And then all of us know all about this. I mean, this is the old remote asset thing, industrial IoT at its best, right? Who here uses remote asset monitoring to keep track of the things you sell your customers? That's a great opportunity for recurring revenue. And it makes a data set that actually AI can be really interesting once you have a data set. And so on. So I think you get the idea. But to get to these things, we have to go through some sort of a transformation. And lastly, lean. Who here, has done all the lean stuff in your shops, right? Lean is important. Lean needs to be digital. How many of you run digital lean shops? In other words, where all the data in your shop is running through a digital system so you can understand the visualization of the data, the analytics of the data, understand where the hot points are, and use it as a means by which to do continuous lean. Anybody? That's good.
Sort of, yeah.
Sort of?
Yeah.
How?
So we have monitoring on our machine platforms that tell us if, efficiency for
Cool.
how the parts are running and the lead rate.
Okay, so when it goes wrong, you know.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, so this is really important too, and this has been around for many years, is the whole notion of, but it's digital, so how many of you we talked about the digital thing. I don't know, I was talking at Mass MEP a few of these meetings ago with a guy from MIT who was on stage with me, and he told us that only 9% of all manufacturers in North America have digital shops, really run digital. Sounds like 14% in Europe and north of 40% in China. So it's not so much that, people in places like Asia have low-cost labor, they have technology. You need to catch up. Go ahead. And what's interesting is, this comes from the same source, by the way, is this is the manufacturing operations create more data than government, communications and media, banking, retail, professional services, and healthcare. So where's all that data? Is it on the floor in your shop? Maybe. Maybe it's stuck in the machine. You didn't know that had a port. You can get it out. There's a tap there.
It's in all those Rockwell sensors.
It's in all those Rockwell sensors. Well, they went somewhere, right? Okay. Well, this is true, right? That's why they invested in PTC for the things. But what's interesting is that I found this post on LinkedIn that says 95% of manufacturers still use paper-based versus digital processes, while 20% use paper for half of overall activities, which probably means order entry and that CRM stuff you guys are interested in, right? Trying to get these people to adopt that, is that what you're trying to do? Why is yours better than HubSpot and Salesforce? Okay, look, you got a picture right there. You got it. I'm going to give you 7 seconds to say 2 sentences. Why is it better?
We work with bring in your ERP and order data. We automatically bring in all of your customer engagement activity, and then are able to identify things like customers that have dropped off on ordering, your tier A customers that you haven't been in touch with, and just really create more of a proactive platform.
Okay, so assuming somebody actually has a digital database of who they sell to and they know what they sold to them, you can help them.
Yes.
How many of you people use Salesforce or HubSpot? Okay, that's like half the room. That means everybody else doesn't. Anyway, so we get the point. So what are we going to do with all? So the point is, data is really important. You want to start the AI journey, you really have to start with the data. And we've always been told this. So if we start with the data, we have to go find the data, then we have to connect to the data. Once we figure out it's there, then we connect to it. I love that. Let's connect to it. Well, now when we get it out, we got to put it somewhere. Well, where's the database? Oh, okay, well, let's stick it in the database. Yeah, maybe a little messy, let's try to get it organized. Now I got to go get Microsoft BI or Tableau or some sunshine thing, and I can make these beautiful, right, dashboards of the data. Well, maybe somebody can. I just don't know if I have enough money to buy the guy to do it. Okay, maybe I'll go home and spend all weekend and nights doing that when I'm not running my business. Okay, so and the dashboards then give us, so the data then can be turned in through the dashboards to information, and that's great. And that gives us some insight, and I think you're getting some of that now, right? Good. But that information then can be transformed further into insight about what's really going on. And if we can really understand and get to the insight that's caught in the data to tell us what's going on, then we can do something meaningful with that, and most important, which is we can create value. We want to create value. We want to get, as you guys said, right? We want to make the right investments to serve the right customers with the right things, especially if we're making to stock. right? We want to understand where the best performance of our supply chain is functioning. We also want to understand how our operations are going. So this is really a problem that isn't about your factory floor and your operations. It's about the entire value chain in which you live. Everything to do about from the customer acquisition to their order, to the way in which you have ordered the material you need from your supplier, needs to be incorporated in this kind of a viewpoint. And if you do that, you can start to use all these cool tools to help you do better and grow your business. But have a strategy for how to do it. So, if we did all that data stuff, and now we have access to data, which is enough of a problem, we can use AI, but we have a problem. Let's see what Time said. Oh, it's the end of humanity. AI, right there. But pretty close in the same time frame, they said, oh, no, it's the future of humankind. Is it a floor wax or is it a dessert topping? Huh? How many of you think it's our demise? It's the end of humanity as you know it. Anybody?
Somewhere in between.
Yeah. How about? Yeah. How many think it's this? Right. It's probably just another wonderful tool to help us have a better life. I mean, it certainly helps us with these things. We're all happy to do this. Why is it that we can have all this in our pocket and we can't do anything in the factory? I don't know. Anyway, well, I do sort of get it. I work at Rockwell. What?
Because this is my money.
That's your money. That's a good point. That's your money.
The factory's my money.
But yeah, in your case, it is your money, right? So let's see how to make that work for you. So that really makes a difference. So, and what we know is this is usually what we're told is about the AI journey. We started with the data problem. And I really wanted to start with that in a discussion about AI because it's so important. It's always been the big hill to climb, the threshold, the thing we had to get over to get going in this process where maybe we can use this technology. But I think what we want to describe here is a way in which we can turn this whole system back end over on itself. In other words, if we had all the data, we could get that dashboards that describe it. That's right, analytics. Okay, cool. Microsoft BI and Tableau and stuff like that. And then if we have that, we can take the data and maybe make some machine learning models, AI stuff, right? To learn how things optimize, make it prescriptive or predictive, and ultimately generative. Now we have these really gigantic models of everything everybody has ever written and wrote, right? And put into the internet that we can access through ChatGPT and things like that, right? That's the generative thing. Large language models. This is a hard journey. And what we think needs to be done is that we need to be able to now understand that I think what's happened is the investment has been made to enable us to turn this on and to get started in this journey in a much more easy way. They tell us that a reference that we found said these are the top 12 applications of AI in manufacturing. Well, that's interesting. Supply chain management, assembly line optimization, QA, quality assurance, these are all great. But I contend to you that for businesses of the kinds that we all run here and the small that Mass MEP is meant to help serve, so what, who cares? This is not relevant to us. This requires all those engineers and data scientists and people and resources and connected assets that aren't connected yet that we don't have. So it's not relevant, right? How are they going to really create value for us right now? It's going to be a big investment, would you agree? Okay. And does everybody have enough resources to really stop and put this kind of investment in to make your business go? Maybe even you guys at Mac, you're pretty big. Not really. Because you got, so we're worried about that. So, and what's happened is we've gone through this cycle where there was this concept of artificial intelligence and machine learning. This is where we really had these systems that went from using our statistical math and being able to make curve fitting and other kinds of things to sort of look at how things reacted, how 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 parameters of the system interacted to optimize them, right? To trying to build models around that. And ultimately they got to be too complicated. They became nonlinear. The relationship between the different pieces and parts and parameters that I wanted to have understood are nonlinear, so I really can't describe them in normal math. So I had to invent this thing called a neural network, sort of a matrix math that allowed us to map that without a visibility to the cause and effect of how it worked. Okay, that was fine. And then we got into deeper and deeper machine learning because we said, oh, now we have systems that have many variables. I don't even know which ones are the meaningful ones and which ones don't matter. So let me put them in a box and put the inputs here and see what the outputs are there and build a really deep model about that. And so now I'm building really deep models about very precise systems in a point way. That's very expensive. But we did that over and over again, and finally some people made an investment and created really big ones around unstructured data, which we call generative AI. So the good news is this. So here's now really where the real happy place is for this. The good news is that billions and billions of dollars have been invested by OpenAI and Microsoft and IBM and Google and Amazon to make sure that we have at our disposal the benefit of all that data being processed into these models. ChatGPT, Gemini, we can make beautiful art, we can have it create music. There's a lot of things that happen because somebody invested in that. What's also happened is the networking infrastructure, the computational power and the cost of computation, right? And the ability to catch all this data and use it has become very economical. It's become efficient. You may run out of energy along the way, but that's a different problem. Okay, so the point is these billions of dollars have been invested on our behalf, and that's a great thing. And so what we want to do here is say, what's really cool is instead of having to have gone through the old process of, let me go connect the data, let me go get it and put it someplace, we can turn that all around. Let's use the investment in generative AI to have it help us initiate and start ourselves down the road to the digital journey we want to take with our business and getting value out of our data to inform and better run our business and understand where to invest in this kind of technology so that it will make a bigger difference in our growth strategy. So we can look for quick wins, and from those we can understand and discover. So we want to use the technology to discover where the best places are to work in the business so that now we can work on that business and ultimately be a data-first business. Okay? So I think you can do that with 20 bucks. Pay 20 bucks a month. This is what OpenAI or Microsoft charges. But if you want, we spent 25 because we wanted the team version, so we spent an extra $5. Okay, we'll be over. So, okay, so, and what that does, it's really short-circuiting this cycle. It's allowing us to not have to do all this very big preparatory work, but take advantage of the investments other people have made on our behalf to get started down this journey very quickly. And the only way we can best explain this to you is to show it to you. So, we have some demos. First one's a molding machine. So, injection molding, right? So, I know your machines aren't connected, but what happened is we figured out if we stuck a USB stick in this USB slot on the side of the controller that was on somebody's injection molding machine, we could get a data dump of the run. So you got 2 data dumps. Okay, that's nice. I don't know what all that stuff means. But we took that data and we presented it into the bot. Okay? And in fact, now what we could have done is we could have sat there and told the bot, and we could do this, we didn't, because we're interested in the experiment, so we're testing technology. But we could have said, this is an injection molding machine. And this is the kind of stuff we want to make, and this is what we know about doing it, right? And have it take that into the context. But we said, what happens if we don't do any of that? What if we just present the data? Would it understand, in fact, that this is about molding? And sure enough, it did. And then it said, oh, well, here's what I saw in the data. So it identified very quickly what's in there. That's not magic, right? That was pretty straightforward. But then what it did, it started to do frequency plots. Right out of the box of all the differences. This is frequency of the occurrence of values versus the specific kinds of values they are. So that's kind of interesting because now we understand what those things are, at least you do if you're molding, with your injection molding machine. And then we started to sort of ask it, what it can tell us or conclude from what it thinks about what correlates with what and what parameters might influence other parameters, let's say around quality, and how it would rank that. So you can see here it's sort of also teaching. It's saying, well, to determine which variables are most relevant in predicting quality, we can use statistical machine learning to do that. That's nice. Like correlation analysis, or machine learning feature models, or chi-squared tests. Okay, well, I didn't know that before. Maybe you did. But it did do that, and then it brought up, as it did that, and gave us some output. I think there's the chart there. Right there. Yeah. So, and then if you just come down, not to take you through all the detail, you can see what's happening. But what we've just done is we are having a conversation with the data. Right? You didn't have to invest very much. And you can take the person who knows the most about the data and say, let's have a conversation with the data. That would be fun. What can we learn from what it tells us? What might be in there that we want to be able to use as new kinds of set points or things we worry about that are important to us? So that's interesting. Maybe we can find out things about what's our real setup time, what's our changeover time, what's the overall equipment efficiency of some pieces of equipment based on what we know. What if we really understood from everybody's paper travelers that we scanned in and then asked, what do you think? Give us a chart of what's going on with all of our paper travelers this month. That could be interesting information. Not hard to get. And we would think it's really complicated, but it's really not. We just got to scan all that stuff in. The rest will happen because, believe it or not, it knows how to read. Okay, so that's one. So just to give you an idea, so what did we do? We took machine data, we presented the machine data, and we got some interesting information that allowed us to have an interactive conversation with the data that's intelligent. We now can bias that. We can input more information about things we actually know. We can add into it, if we had it, a digital file of the performance characteristics of the machines and have it sort of interact with that for us so that we can understand how to build a strategy. Let's look at another one. What's the next one, Carlos?
Sales data.
Okay, but let's not do that. Let's worry about the revenue. Remember I said we have to worry about how to grow the business? So what's the performance on revenue, and who are the best customers? Who are the worst customers? Who are the ones who don't return? Who are the ones that come back? Who are the ones that really make us money, and which ones are we operating at a loss? You know, sometimes you got this really big company, but it's got really low margins. And that, how can we fix that? So we presented, you can all get a CSV file off of, you know, whatever system you're using. If you have QuickBooks, it's pretty easy. Let's just get it out of there and present it. And then it figures out very quickly, okay, it's not too hard to know what's in there. It's a lot of information that's very transactional. But we can take that transactional data, and the same kind of thing can happen. We can start to understand what are the parameters of the business that might be meaningful and important. So again, another way to be able to have sort of a conversation or interaction with the data that leverages all this AI technology without having to start with the data set and build models first. Leveraging other people's work. I think those were some geographic breakdowns of the business. Up here, this is what's been shipped, disputed, in process, canceled, on hold, and resolved. And here's all the different countries that you might have sold to. You know, it just sort of starts to visualize your data for you. From there, we can decide what do we really want to know and how should we build dashboards in the future. Go ahead, Carlos. What do you think is yours?
Want to jump into the supply chain?
Sure. So supply chain was an interesting one that came up to us a couple of weeks ago. We were working with MEP. MEP has a woman that works for her. Her name is Olivia. Olivia's job is to receive somebody's phone call from in this room that says, gee, you know, I need to find suppliers, they're ISO certified and blah, blah, blah. And I really want them because I need somebody to like weld this like copper to this aluminum I have. Okay. So what would we normally do? We start hitting the internet, we start doing searches, we go to the Connects database and see if Connects will tell us something. Then we gotta call everybody up. It takes a while, it might take a day, a week. So Carlos created a chatbot to do that problem. We named it after Olivia. It doesn't do her job, but what it does do, and this is really important, it becomes her co-pilot to help her as a subject matter expert do more informed work have more data quickly, help expedite the ability for her to use her best thinking and her knowledge and experience in the best way in the shortest period of time. It doesn't take over the job. But, go ahead, Carlos, you can talk about what it is.
Okay, yeah, sure, thanks, Mark. So this is, as Mark was saying, the co-pilot for Olivia. So the idea with this is not to replace Olivia, but to help her be more productive and also to get the job better done, I guess. So internally, what I did was sat with Olivia first, understood her job, and then what was the thought process behind this bot. So basically, when she gets a request from any of you guys, she looks into the Massachusetts manufacturer database, and then if she doesn't find a match with the request, then she goes to Google, and then if it doesn't happen, then she goes to another database. So basically, I fed both databases, and also it has the ability to search in Google. So this is just an example. So here we are looking for a humanoid robotics company inside the state. Then also we also configured that this is going to be asking questions to Olivia so that it will be more specific on the request that she's getting. So in here, what specific applications you need, technical aspects,
right.
and then just human robotics.
And so then very quickly we end up with a table that has contact information of maybe the top 10 people we should really call and consider, or go to those websites now and see which ones we want to contact. So it helps expedite that process. These are easy things to do. This took you, what, a couple of hours to create?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to program the whole thing.
And its processing time is minutes, right? So that's really interesting. People made a big investment for us. There's some tools out there. We put together some trainings with Mass MEP, at Mass MEP, where what we'd like to do, if you would like, is we can come and show you how to best use these tools to create these kinds of automations and bots that let you explore data, have conversations with data, or expedite some of the internal processes in your business to make them more efficient and improve them for basically $25 a month, okay? Do you want to quickly show your Sophia? Sophia, yes. Sophia is Carlos's invention. And Sophia takes all of the P&L. This is a business strategy, very sophisticated business strategy bot that he made. And the input is the entire transactional P&L of your business. And so it's trying to understand the behavior of your revenue. So here's the revenue by year to 2022. And then here is a chart that shows churn. That means how many customers didn't return, how much business did you lose or gain year over year, and how's your business performing? That looks like a problem. And then it started to create a future-looking forecast of what it expects your business to perform as a baseline for you to think about. So easy things to do that are very interesting, leveraging those. Any comments?
What about, so that's going up to the cloud, presumably Microsoft now has that information. Are there
Yeah, so everybody's been asked, yes.
offline versions, or I know.
So what's happened is you're not gonna get an offline version because you need to exercise the large language model itself. But for instance, with OpenAI, for instance, what happens by default is any of the information you put in to bias it stays private. There is a setting you have to go into and slide the thing off, which then tells it that you're opting in to let them use that information. But otherwise, they're going to great lengths to make sure it's private. If you use it in the context of Microsoft Copilot in particular, they're going to very great lengths to maintain their enterprise model context to make sure that that's safe.
Is Gemini doing the same, or?
You know, I don't actually know precisely the answer to that question, so I won't answer it. I don't know if anybody else does about Gemini, but I know OpenAI.
Could you ask AI?
You could. Is that
That's
you got your final slide?
Can you put the last slide up?
Yeah, last slide, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay, so we just want to leave you with the thought that I think you get our sense is like, yeah, we all talk about AI. I think the big thing is we have an opportunity to use all the investments everybody else made to really put it to work now, and maybe to short circuit what has seemed to be a really, really difficult problem of getting started on digital transformation. And that's really the message.
Question, could we get a copy of the slides? Is that available?
I believe MassMUP is gonna have all the presentation materials available for all the breakout sessions. There's gonna be a link either somewhere available afterwards. I'm not sure exactly where, but yeah, for sure.
So there's two things here. One is about AI. What this one is really about is what we just talked about. How can we sit down and learn how to use it, but how, as a result of doing this, will we really, by the time we're done, have built a half a dozen really great automations that work for you within your business specifically for you, and you'll know how they work to do that yourself. But in this one is really more factory floor. How do I really easily start to connect to the actual data streams that I do or don't know are there and get them into the system so I can start leveraging them against the first one.
Okay.
So that's the deal.
Thank you.
I hope that
Thank you guys. Hopefully that was useful and informative. And for $25, you can get started small.
It is monthly recurring and it doesn't come to us.
I've heard from Pat. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
At that point in time, sort of get together with you.
I'd be interested in that. I did send you a So it really does. So I use the free version of GenAI. It's pretty slick to help my clients. Sure. I started with it. Some great stuff to start with. I did
It does not play nice for
found us. Whatever, but I hadn't actually tried that.
So we ended up going with the paid version of things, and as I said, Andrea Reed works with us as an AI expert physicist.
Yeah.
Also a startup, so we started a decision support tool in AI. P&G was his biggest customer, managing sort of supply chain. A few years ago, he sold his company. So he's got, well, let's just put the data in. I'd like to get it started. And the next thing you knew, we started seeing all these customers talk and so we've got really it is.
I'm gonna have to look more into that.
It's just 1%. That's it. So I'd love to get together and think about what's really the motive. Where should it start now? Because our tech team, this is magic. Small to medium businesses to finally have tools that they really can't afford.
And that's where they difference, right? And like this, I said on the podcast. Oh, no,
Yeah, I saw that. I'm just
So that's
It's an investment.
That's the problem. The tool is still, I really like the philosophy.
I don't know, I'd like to say I'm surprised.
I mean, I know
When they came out of the box and they had the box, that was a real crisis. Thank God that's the right way to think about it. In its implementation, I think it's.
But, okay, so we'll take a look at what you have, we'll talk a little bit.